Hello and welcome to my book corner. My name is Hannah and today I wanted to chat to you about all the books that I've read in April. In my April goals, I think I had 6 or 7 books that I wanted to read in April. I have to put that out there. I am a mixed bag reader, as in I read to a hard copy of a book and a digital on my Kindle, but also most of the books that I read via audio because I am a full-time working mum. I haven't really got that much time to sit down and grab a book and just spend time reading the book unless it's my rest day or bedtime. So a lot of my books in my April stats will be audiobooks. But I also like to listen to a book and follow it in a hard copy as I listen to the audio copy. Okay, so let's start with some general stats from the story graph. In the month of April, I have read 16 books, 3,226 pages, and listened to 97.92 hours of audiobooks. 3 top moods were tense, emotional, and dark. Ooh. My top 3 genres were romance, thriller, and mystery. The average star rating for the books I've read in April was 2.84 star. That's okay because a 3-star rating for me is the book that I enjoyed. It wasn't amazing, but I still enjoyed it. Also, I had 2 books that I didn't finish. In numbers, I had DNF'd 2 books. I gave 1 star to 1 book, 2 stars to 6 books, 3 stars to 4 books, and 4 stars to 5 books. Let's start with the books that I DNF'd. These 2 books are The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. So this is about a woman that is diagnosed with a disease. Unfortunately, the prognosis is not very good, and she's telling her story to her employee, and she's telling the story of how she got pregnant when she was 16 and what happened in that time. And I am not going to go into the details because I already talked about this book in one of my vlogs, so I am just going to say that I really didn't like how the parents treated her. I developed very strong emotions when I was reading this book, and they were not positive emotions. This book was making me feel angry, and I don't know, Nicholas Sparks' writing, I just find it boring and as if someone just cut out the template and he just follows the template because every single one of his books is the same. I did mention that in my vlog. I used to read Nicholas Sparks's books a lot in the past when I was in my 20s, and I feel like these books are good for beginner readers, someone that is just getting into reading, but I don't think they are challenging enough for advanced readers and someone that's actually read a few books in their life. So it could be good for a beginner reader. I was getting really upset reading this book, and I feel like his writing style in those 20 years, it hasn't changed at all. It hasn't changed one bit, and I just found it disappointing, and I did not enjoy this book for whatever reason. So I DNF'd this book. I thought there was so many much more interesting books to read than this one. So it was a DNF. The second book that I DNF'd was Twisted Love, and it was the first book in a series. I DNF'd this book at 26%, and after reading 26%, I thought, I've had enough. I think I know where this book is going. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't care about the main characters, the girl or the boy or man or whatever. I just didn't care about them at all. I was not vibing with this book, and I decided to not waste my eyeballs on this. So DNF. Okay, let's talk about my one story. I only have 1 book here, and this is Crossed by Emily McIntyre. Cross is actually book 5 in the Never After series, and I I have it because I bought the whole set. I liked one of those books a lot and I wanted to buy my own copy, and it came as a part of a bundle, and that's why I have this on my shelf as well. This was the book I enjoyed the least out of the entire series. I don't even know why exactly. I just didn't enjoy it. I listened to this book as an audio. I am happy I didn't waste my eyeballs on reading this because I did give it 1 star in the end. I have to say that probably one of the reasons maybe that this book didn't sit with me was the fact that the main male character was a priest. I think it's just not my thing. So this is my 1 star read for the month of April. Okay, let's chat about my 2 star reads. Let's maybe start with Never Never by Colleen Hoover. This was the book that I read on my Kindle, and I actually felt like this book had such a big potential. And then towards the end, I was like, I was feeling disappointed because I feel like she could have done so much more with this book. Never Never was a story of this boy and girl that they wake up every 48 hours without remembering what happened in the last 48 hours. So the story every day repeats itself and they start from zero. They have to remember what happened to them, and it goes from there. And I feel like this book had a real good potential, but I think it was dragged out too much. I think she could have picked up on some action maybe halfway through the book. We didn't have to, go over and over and over the same thing again and again and again. So I think this is what I found disappointing. It was dragged out, and then it felt like in the last chapter everything just happened all at once. So I feel like the build-up could have started a bit earlier on, and at least for the second part of the book we could have seen more action. It's not to say that it's not a good book. Some people might enjoy it. For me, I just found it a little bit too slow and too dragged out. The second book that I've given a 2-star rating to, it was actually one of my library books, and it was Britney Spears' The Woman in Me. The reason I gave it 2 stars, it's because I felt like this book was very rushed. Like they didn't sit down properly and wrote it nicely, and I don't know, I know my opinion is probably one of those less popular ones, but I felt like I was just finding out the stuff that I already knew from the TV. I felt like it was not enough input from Britney's side, and I kind of felt like everything was a little bit brushed over and rushed, and I don't know, I wanted more from this book. So this is the reason I gave it 2 stars. The next book that earned itself 2 stars from me in the month of April is Sarah J. Maas, A Code of Frost and Starlight, and it's a very short book. It's a novella. I actually listened to this book via audio because my library had a copy of that available. So I listened to that via audio, and I'm actually happy that I did, because I think I would feel like it was a waste of time to waste my eyes on this book. I feel like I didn't learn anything new. I just felt like I was a spectator observing people shopping and buying gifts and basically not doing anything much. So it was, to me, it was a little bit of a pointless book. And I don't know, I have one more book to read from that series, book 5, I think. Book 5. And I think this spoiled it a little bit for me. And I don't find myself reaching for book 5. So yeah, we'll see. I gave it 2 stars, and yeah, nothing special in my opinion. Another couple of books from Never After series by Emily McIntyre that got 2-star ratings from me are Scarred and Twisted. And to be fair, this I can't really remember, off the top of my head, I can't really remember what the book was about, but I see a diamond. So I think that was the one that was very loosely based on Aladdin. And I think this one was the one that was happening in like, this was some sort of a royal court or castle or something like this. I don't really remember much about this one for sure. And this one, yeah, so this one was a story of Yasmin, and there was few scenes that I marked. And yeah, same as this one, but they're not my favorite. They didn't really make a very big impact on me. 2-star reads. I can't even remember really what happened. There was something about the father and something about forced marriage, or I don't know if I could say enemies to lovers, because I really can't remember how this book even finished. I know she was forced to marry this bad guy, and I think they pretended, or they didn't like each other, and they ended up liking each other. I have no idea. That's how big of an impact this book had on me. And this one was happening on like some castle, and there was this girl, and I think she was supposed to kill someone, and ended up, so basically enemies to lovers, these two, I think. But more, I don't know, you'd really have to read it yourself to find out more. To me, the 2-star reads, they're not worth recommending. The last book that I gave 2 stars to in April was actually the book that was randomly generated by a random number generator. These are the books that are here on this shelf here. These are the books that I really don't fancy reading, that I had on my bookshelf for a very long time, and I want to read them and get rid of them. So that book was The Girl on the Cliff by Lucinda Riley, and it got 2 stars as well. The reason I gave it 2 stars, for me, this book had a potential of having 3 stars, but from about halfway through the book, maybe 60%, it's just become so unrealistic and so unbelievable. I was reading this or listening to this, because I actually read and listened at the same time. I was listening to this book in some places, and I was inwardly cringing, like, oh, why? I was like, this is literally what I was. I was like, why? Why did you do that? It could have been so much better if you didn't do this, Lucinda. So yeah, I gave this book a 2-star. This is basically a story of people that names I don't remember, and it had a little bit of a ghost and spooky element, and I like that a lot because I like paranormal stuff. And then it kind of turned and become something completely different. I also enjoyed the fact that this book was different generations, like even generations that were way in the beginning of, like, I think 19th or 20th century. So we went so far back, and Irish culture as well, which was interesting to me. But I felt like that element that she introduced later on in the book of things being very unrealistic and a bit unbelievable, that spoiled it for me. There was a moment when this girl, I think she's just 12 or 11 or 12, she gets on the plane herself and she goes to New York. No, that will never ever happen. There's no way she is getting on the plane by herself, you know. She went and she bought a ticket by herself. Then she went to London, and no. So for me, that kind of stuff, it was kind of like thumbs down. I stopped enjoying this book, and yeah. So I gave it 2 stars. It had potential to be a 3-star read, but because of all that unbelievable stuff and unrealistic stuff, I had to downgrade it to 2. Before I stare it, isn't that gorgeous? So gorgeous. I was getting thirsty from all this talking, so coffee it is. It's not as pretty now. Okay, so let's talk about my 3-star reads. These are Da-da-da-da. Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and that was the first book in a series. I picked this book by the cover. I liked the cover. I thought it was grungy. I thought it was going to be some sort of a mystery or something. I am one of those people that don't read the synopsis. I just kind of just go with the flow, and I like to see what the book is about myself. So I downloaded this book and I started listening to it, because yes, I did listen to it as an audiobook, and I was a little bit shooketh because I don't think I have ever read a book like this. This is a dark romance, and it's book 1 in the Never After series, and I have never read anything dark romance. And so I was a little bit shocked, and then I started enjoying the book, and I just continued on with the series. But this one was a story loosely based on Hook and Wendy from Peter Pan. Obviously, we are not following, this is not exactly the story of Hook and Wendy, but the names are there, so you kind of imagine this is Hook and Wendy from Peter Pan. And I actually enjoyed this book. I gave it 3 stars. Part of this was the fact that it had me shocked and surprised, but also the plot was good. I enjoyed the plot. So if a dark romance with an interesting plot interests you, I do recommend this book to you. Enjoy. The next book that I gave 3 stars to was one of the books that was actually randomly generated for me, and it is The Little Coffee Shop of Kabul. This is literary fiction. This is women's fiction, and I actually enjoyed this book. The story was nice. It was about this woman that had this coffee shop in Kabul, and there was so many people involved, and each one of them had their own story, and it was just a pleasant book to listen to. I listened to that one as well, and it was a very pleasant book to listen to. It had a good ending. So yeah, if you fancy some easy read literary fiction, women's fiction, have a go at this one. The next book that I gave 3 stars to was Sanatorium by Miss Pierce, and this is a mystery thriller, crime / something like that. This is a story of this woman that goes to her brother's engagement party in this hotel in Switzerland, and it's in the Alps, and she is going there with her fiance or partner or something like that. She also happens to be a policeman or policewoman, detective. And while they're there, there's an avalanche, so the hotel is cut off from the village or from the town, and there is a body that they found in a hotel swimming pool. So her being the only law representative in a hotel, she takes it upon herself to carry out some sort of the investigation with the agreement from the local police, because they're obviously in contact by the telephone. The police can't get to the hotel because of that avalanche, because of that roads being blocked, etc, etc. And as a book, it was interesting. It wasn't one of those books that I would be recommending left, right and center. It's an okay book to read. It was an okay read. For me, 3 stars, it's an okay read. Will I be recommending it to people? Yeah, if you want to read it. If you have nothing else to do, read it. It was okay. The last book that I gave 3 stars to in the month of April was Layla by Colleen Hoover, and I actually listened to this book on Audible. Once again, it was Kindle Unlimited with Audible narration, and it was available as part of Kindle Unlimited, and it was classed as paranormal romance, and I really didn't know what to expect from this book, and in the end I ended up liking it. It was weird. It was about this couple that they go back to the house where they met, and there's a ghost, and the ghost goes inside the woman, and yeah, there's more to it, but I don't want to tell you in case you've ever read, if you've never read this book or listened to this book. It was enjoyable. It was interesting to read. It's interesting to see how people make different choices based on their emotions and based on how they connect with other people as well. So it was an interesting book to listen to from that point of view. Also, it had that paranormal aspect that I really enjoy. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so now let's talk about 4-star books. The first book that I've given 4 stars to in the month of April was The God Killer by Hannah Kaner, and it was actually a book that I had borrowed from my local library. I actually really enjoyed this book. It was like an adventure fantasy to me. This book follows a group of people. There's this girl called Kissing, and she is the God Killer, and she ends up looking after this little girl whose name I cannot remember, and they end up going on this pilgrimage to this island where the gods still are in favor, let's say that. And one of the people that joins this pilgrimage is Elogast. Let's call him Elo. So they end up going on this pilgrimage together, the 3 of them. They separate from the group of other pilgrims, and they have to face different challenges, and they have to face different monsters, and also they have to face their own demons. So I really enjoyed this book, actually. I was really vibing with this book, and I was rooting for Kissing and Ella. There was not much of a romance going on. There was a scene when you can imagine like there was something between them, but it wasn't, the author didn't go deep into the details and whatnot. But I really liked all of them 3 characters, and I liked it so much. I actually ordered my own copy from Waterstones, and I'm still waiting for it. It's been 3 weeks maybe. So yes, I'm still waiting for my copy, but I also ordered book 2, The Sunbringer, and it's waiting its turn to be read. So yeah, 4 stars from me, and I enjoyed it. The next book I had from the library, and I gave 4 stars to. Actually, I gave it 4.5 stars. It's The House Across the Lake by Rayleigh Sager, and I flipping swallowed this book. I read it every single minute available. I would sit down and I read this book. I really enjoyed it. This is about the woman that is staying by this lake. It's called Lake Green in Vermont. And across the lake there's a house. And in that house there's a married couple. And this woman ends up observing them with her binoculars, and she gets to meet the woman, she gets to meet the couple, and then something happens and she gets really hung up on watching them. She thinks the husband did something to the woman. Casey, the main female character, the one that observes with the binoculars across the lake, is portrayed as a woman that has a drinking problems. So she's portrayed as unreliable, and there's a lot of things going on, and it makes you think that, you know, she's a little bit maybe crazy watching them. It makes you think that the husband did something to his wife, but also there's a lot of like underlying stories and underlying things going on, which I'm not going to talk about here. I just want to say this book, I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and it lost 0.5 star because something happened in this book that made it, for me, spoiled it a little bit, and I was like, oh, not this. You know, when I tell you I like paranormal stuff, So it was a little bit to do with the paranormal stuff, but it wasn't in a... I didn't like the way it happened in a book. So I think this is the reason I lowered that one star. It was just missing something. Like, this was a little bit too much for me. I think if she didn't add that element, or if the author didn't add that element, that book would be a 5-star read for me. But yeah, I enjoyed it and I do recommend this book. The next 4-star read for me was The Hike by Lucy Clark. And this is a book that talks about a group of women that go on their annual holiday, and this time they go to Norway for a hiking trip. And they go to a place where in a previous year a woman had gone missing. Generally, I really enjoyed the story. There's enough of eeriness, enough of this chill factor. If you like this kind of a vibe, I do. That's why I enjoy the story. Also, this book talks about, very complicated relationships between those women. And I don't know, I just found it a very interesting read, fast-paced as well, and it has a good twist at the end. So I recommend it. The next book, and this is the book that I read via audio, was Wretched by Emily McIntyre, and it's book 3 in Never After series. And I kid you not, this book is full of crack. I wish it lasted longer. I loved it from the very, very first scene in a bar. I absolutely loved this book. I never wanted it to finish. It was so good. So this was a story of a woman that is a daughter of a mafia boss and a guy that is an undercover cop working as well, working undercover as part of this mafia group. And yeah, the relationship between them is literally just full of chemistry, and it sizzles. But the story is really good. It's a fast-paced book, and I really, really enjoyed listening to it. And it has a good ending as well. So I highly recommend this one. It's the favorite out of all 5 books. This one is my favorite. And this is the book that made me buy the whole set. I went to pick up this book only, and I ended up bringing all 5 home. So there you go. So the last book that I've read in April, and the last book with the 4-star rating for me, was The Remainders of Him by Colleen Hoover. And this is the story of this woman that comes out from jail, and she is fighting to get her child back. And if you're a mom like myself, I just found this book really heart-wrenching, and for the simple reason that I could relate to her. I could imagine how she felt. And I don't know, it was just very emotional. And this book will definitely make you cry. So if you're in a mood for a sad story with a happy ending, I highly recommend this one. Enjoy. Okay, so these are all the books that I've listened to and read in April. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read or listened to any of the books that I mentioned. Let me know in the comments. And please, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and leave a comment, because it really helps me out. And if you subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing and staying subscribed. I really appreciate you. And if you like to see more videos from me, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press that bell for the notifications. For now, thank you very much for watching. Good luck meeting your reading goals in May, and I'll see you next time. Bye.